Hi, welcome to another video in this series. This one is the introduction to JavaScript. And today we're going to be continuing on using our repository. And here's the README from it, which I will go through with you. So we're going to be looking at JavaScript. Just a warning here, when this is not by any means a very deep dive into JavaScript, it's pretty much just showing you some bare essentials that you can use to help your uh, sorry, use JavaScript to help your website be more functional. Alrighty, so for students, same stuff that you've already been doing for this course. Make sure you clone the repository to have your own copy. Join the teachers live share during the class time, or if you're not at class, if you're on your own, follow along with the video. And most importantly, practice the concepts yourself. Don't just watch the video. And finally, just as importantly, experiment, make changes, make it your own learning. Okay, so actually understand what's going on and modify it. So what we'll be learning, or what we're going to try, is first of all, we're going to just discuss how do we actually put any script into a program. And then secondly, we're going to try and get a very simple script that will just turn a red square blue. You'll see that in a minute. Thirdly, we're going to try and change this from just changing it from red to blue to be a toggle script. So it'll go from blue, red, blue, red, blue, red every time you click the button. And then lastly, we want to look at how do we make elements appear and disappear. This can be very useful for generating mega dropdowns and things like that we can look at a bit later on. So I've got an index.html. This is going to be your starting point. I've got a few things set up there for you. And remember, don't just watch, code along while I'm talking. Ask questions in class if you don't understand something. Experiment with variations and save programs as you go along. So let's get stuck into this tutorial. There's the index.html. And as you can see, it's really very empty at the moment. We don't have much. I'll go through what I've got here. So all we've got is one division, and we've got one thing that's new is the word ID. So up until now, you've probably only seen class. The difference between ID and class, you can look it up in W3 Schools, but basically the idea with a class is you're setting up something that may be used multiple times on multiple elements within your website. ID is a one-off, so you should only use the identifier that you use in your ID once in the whole website. So my test div should only be defined for one element. That's really the difference. The other difference comes up here where this hash symbol you can see is what we use rather than the full stop when we're talking about IDs. Apart from that, they will look very similar and work very similar with your styling. You can see here it's pretty stock standard style. I'll show the render. Okay, so it's a 200 by 200 pixel square box. And basically, the one thing you may not have seen is that I'm using a flex box to align center and justify center, which means center it vertically and horizontal. It's a really good trick if you've got some text that you want to appear in the exact center of a div. So what I thought we might do for this one is we might define a button which would run a single line of JavaScript to change the blue color into a red when it's clicked, because that's probably the easiest way. So we just type in button. It's just a standard HTML element, and we can type in click me, and you can see up here I've got the button now, which is great. If I click it, nothing happens because we haven't said for anything to happen. What we need to do is go in here and go on click equals, pardon me. Now, when you do on click equals, it's going to expect JavaScript inside those double quotes. So whatever we do inside those double quotes, we're going to do JavaScript. And what we're going to do for a start is we're just going to do an inline command. So it'll be like putting styling in here, except for scripting. So that's what we'll do first, and then later on we'll put some logic up here in our script. So we'll put in a line of JavaScript. Now, there are many ways to do this. I'm showing you one. I'm suggesting to you that when you want to set element, when you want to set um, different attributes of elements, then this is probably the best syntax to use. There are other ways. You'll find them. If you Google them, you'll find them. I would suggest this is probably the best way to do it. So what we do is we start off with the word document, and then you go get element by ID. Now, the ID refers to the ID here. So what we're basically trying to do at the start of this command is we're trying to say, this is the thing on the screen that I want to change, or this is the thing in my page that I want to change. In our case, the element is my test div. So we need to tell it that. Now you'll find in this quote, in this bracket here, it likes single quotes. My test div. And then what we do is we go style dot background color, and you can see that this isn't the same syntax as CSS. You can see here it's not hyphenated like it is in CSS. You're going to have to find those out. They're pretty easy to find out. Just Google up JavaScript change background color and you would find that pretty quickly. Okay, so let's continue on. And then we go equals. And then I think we can just go red, I believe. We'll try it. And so we've got our button here. We click on this and lo and behold, this turns red. If I click it again, nothing happens. All right, so that's sort of phase one. We've managed to use JavaScript or a line of JavaScript to update our HTML. And that's the basis of everything we sort of do. We can run a script and the script can change our screen here. So let's now try and go from inline, which is this style where the JavaScript is sort of tacked into the HTML, and we'll put it into an internal JavaScript, which is up here in these scripts. Remembering that, of course, when it comes to handing in your assessment task, the script should be an external JavaScript file. Okay, so this would not be here, it would be in an external file saved down here. And then you would use the same linking as you do with your style sheet. All right, so let's start with a script. Now, scripts are broken into chunks called functions for our purposes. So we're going to define a function and we're going to call it change color. Maybe we'll use camel case. So make the first letter uppercase, bracket. All right, so you need to use the word function. That's standard. This is a name that you make up. And it should represent the functionality of what we're trying to do. So in this case, we're trying to change color, and you need the squiggly brackets to contain the script. Once you've got that, you're pretty much ready to take this, Control X, and put this in here. Oops. Control V. Semicolon at the end of the line is good form, although usually the program will work anyway, but it can save you errors sometimes. And now what happens when we click? Nothing. And the reason nothing happens is because when the button is clicked, there's nothing in on click. So what we need to do now is say, when there's a click of the button, we want to run this function. So what we might do is we might say change color. Oops, got our case wrong. Okay, and we can try and run that, and nothing happens, and that's because there's an error. But we don't really know where the error is. It could be here, and it's not calling this properly, or it could be that this function is not working. One thing that is useful sometimes is to use the inspector, and we'll have a quick look at the inspector now. Okay, so the inspector didn't turn out to be much use. I found out what's wrong here. I had a typo. I was missing those two brackets. So you need to put those two brackets in there. Once I do that, it's working again. So that's great. So we've done our first step, which is we've changed the box from blue to red. What we want to do now is work towards our second step, which is to read the current color of the box so we can decide what color to set it to. If it's red, set it to blue. If it's blue, set it to red. So we need a command that can read what the current element's value is for a particular property. And there's several ways to do that. You can Google them up. The way I give you is the one that I would recommend you use for all your programs. And I will put that up now. So I just put a comment in here. So the thing we're looking for is the computed style. And by using this method, it means it will allow for internal or external style sheets, etc. So the command we'll use is the color equals window dot get computed style, and then we need to talk about the element itself. So we need to get the element that we're trying to evaluate. I need to copy this. And I need to get the background color. And I think I can say style background. Once again, I could Google this up, but I'm just going to go try it. Okay, hopefully that works. No idea if it will or not. Since we're at it, I may as well show you another trick. What you can do is you can put text. So I want to replace this hello with whatever is going into this variable. So the color is a variable that will hold the output of this query. So it's going to find out what the color is and then put the name of the color into the color. So we are going to try and take the contents of the color and display it where the hello once was. And you use something called inner HTML. We will try that now. So I need to copy this. Dot inner HTML equals, and then I should be able to just say the color. Well, I need to type it correctly. Hopefully it works. We'll see. Doesn't work. I will have a look at the inspector. Just bear with me. Okay, so it's saying that I'm getting an error on line 24. 24 is my get. I did some investigation and I found that my guess was wrong. So I Googled up the command and turns out you need that, I think, I hope. Click me, still not working. I'm now getting an error. Just let me check this one down. All right, this was an odd one. I was getting an error on line 35 saying change color was not defined, but it was defined. The solution was actually to close this down and just reopen it. So just be aware of that it might catch you out. So if I click this, I'm actually seeing exactly what we want to see here, which is our string. We've changed color. So it is all working now. That's great. So now we can make a decision based on this RGB00255. That obviously represents red, green, blue. So it's all blue, no red, no green. So this is set to blue. So what's happening is it's reading the value, it's sending the value to here. So the value is RGB00255, and then it's finally setting the style to red. That's why it finishes on red. So we need an if statement now. We need to say if this is blue, set to red, else set to blue. So that's quite easy to do in a programming language. So we will type that up very quickly. So we can say if, whenever we're doing an if, we open brackets, and we say if the color, it's our variable name, might need to run it again. We'll copy and paste this string across, Control C, is equals. When you do equals, when you're comparing for equality, you need to use a double equals. Put that string in there. That doesn't seem right. I need to close that. So if this condition is true, so if it is blue, we need to set the color to red. So we've got the command to do that, which is here, Control C. Else, so you can see it's very English-like in some ways. Let's set it to blue. And then we get rid of this one. We try and run it. And we can see now that we, instead of a click me, we have a toggle me. So let's change that to toggle. Toggle me. Okay, and so we can see that it flips back and forth. So this is a very useful sort of scenario we've got set up now. Alrighty, so we've got our toggle key working. One thing I would say is that we can simplify our code a bit. You can see here that this bit of code we've got on 4 separate occasions, up here, 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 and here. What you would normally do is you would normally set a variable to get the element, essentially, and put it in a variable, and it speeds things up. Computer's gone slow there. So my variable is going to be the element equals, and then you can just copy and paste this code. Control X, Control V, and then if I put the element here, and we'll see if it works. Still works. So you notice I'm testing very often. So I recommend you test very often as well. So now we can, wherever we had that code, we can replace it with the element, and it just simplifies our code. You could obviously do a search and replace for this. And in fact, I might go Control C, at least that'll speed it up a bit. And then change this one, change this one. Okay, makes our code a little bit tidier and still works. No, I've introduced an error somewhere. Control Z, Control Z, when in doubt, Control Z. So I've done something there, can't see it, but it doesn't really matter, it's all working. Okay, so we won't try and trace that down, but basically what's happening is that I really need to copy this up here, put that in another variable and put it in the code. I don't think I'll bother because this tutorial is getting quite long now. What I will do is I do want to add one more thing. I want to show you how to make this thing disappear. So I'm going to add a button, and I'm going to call it hide me. And what I want you to do now is pause the video, and when you pause it, I want you to complete this on click here for the button. I want you to create an empty function that will hold the code to hide a particular element. You don't have to actually put any code in the function. Just try and set all the skeleton of it up. I will pause now and let you come back when you are ready. So hopefully you came up with something like this. Hopefully you remembered to put in your brackets. I've forgotten again. Okay, so I've now got a hide me button and a toggle me button. Whenever they click on the hide me button, it's going to start this function here. And this function here is going to hide this element. So that's relatively easy to do. So the attribute is display. So we need to get our element. Copy and paste, and we need display this time as the style. And then you need to set it to none. And now when I go hide me, it disappears. That's about it for this video. One last thing, one last trick I'd like to show you is that you can, even though we've been using buttons, you don't need to use a button. For example, I can put in here in this div, I can go on click, and it's very happy to put something in there for me. And I can go hide me. And when that happens, I believe if I click on this, it should disappear. It does. So um, you can assign JavaScript functions or scripts to any element that supports onClick. And that's it for this video. Hope you learned something. Make sure you practice all of this stuff and make sure you do some experimenting as well. See you in the next video.